Company. I have the first image here that I'm going to use to demonstrate our newest collection, the Beauty Box. You can also find this image with the recipe within the PDF guide that is included with your download. It shows you everything that we're going to use on this image listed out for you in case you want to re-look over it again and try it on your own image. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to start with is just a foundation. So I'm going to use our Hello Gorgeous airbrush, and I'm also going to use it with the foundation. So not just the airbrush by itself, because I want to add a little bit of color to her skin tone, kind of correct some colors, give her some more warmth. So I'm going to choose the airbrush with the foundation. So I'm going to click that and press play, and it will run through all of our foundation shades that are pre-selected so we can match her skin tone. And I will show in another video on another image we're going to edit how to also use our custom foundation picker. As you know, our foundations are packed with 24 meticulously selected shades to match almost every skin tone. However, there may be a skin tone that is a little bit off or different, and so we made an action specifically so you can match that skin tone on point. So we'll go over that in another image here after a while. So once the action's done playing, you're going to get a pop-up that talks just really quickly about it, how to use it. Make sure you're painting on the black layer mask, as most of these actions are, because you're going to be painting and applying where you want things to be. If you're using PSE, you're not going to see a group. Your actions will show a background copy of your image, and then every layer adjustment will be added as a clipping mask onto your background image duplicate, because in PSE does not support groups, or if they do allow groups, which you can do, you can't go in and edit the separate layers, and so that's a loss for you guys to really get in there and edit how you want to. So we leave all our groups open so you can edit those. So, but for here we're using Photoshop CC, the newest version they have, and all the full Photoshop versions, you will get the groups. So just open your group layer, and you'll see over here in the panel all the different shades. Like, so there's 24 shades from the lightest all the way to the darkest. But again, if you don't see your shade or unable to match one close enough to your subject, we also have the custom foundation picker, which again I will run through in another image. So let's get to this image. Make sure your black layer mask is selected, because we're going to paint on this layer. We will not paint on any of the foundation colors. So looking at my subject here, I can tell that she has a little bit of a golden undertone to her skin. There's many different undertones to skin, and it makes a difference in how you apply makeups, digital makeups, and make them look really nice and blend well and not look wonky or give you wonky colors. So with her, the buttercream. Again, I've already played with these, so I already know the skin tones here we're going to work with. The buttercream was the best fit for this subject, in my opinion. And it is going to apply at 100% once I'm getting ready to paint on here, but we are going to dial back that opacity. So all I'm going to do here is make sure I have a soft brush selected. I have to use the color white. Make sure you have white, and make sure that black layer mask is selected. Don't paint on the actual layers down here. So we're going to paint on this foundation color, and as you can see, it's matching very nicely. And it's smoothing out her skin, evening out some of the hot spots where you can see a lot where the light hit her from having the snapshot taken. So we're bringing back her skin detail. Because sometimes your subjects can get looked washed out, and we don't want them to get lost in the photo. So once we are done brushing that on, and if you apply it to an area, let's say you accidentally get too much in an area, like over here in her hair, wherever, switch to black as your paint color, and that will erase back over that area. So if you go over an extra space that you didn't mean to paint on, just select it to black, and it'll come right back off. And make sure you switch it back to white so you can paint back on if you need to. Now again, this was applied at 100%. I'm going to dial back on this foundation color to about 70%, just to make it blend in just a little bit more. I didn't want it to be too overpowering. So if we turn it off, That's before, and here's the after. And all it did was, you know, really blend in those tones, bring color back to her, and give her skin some life back to it. So I am done finished with the foundation. It was easy as that. I'm going to flatten the image. So the next thing I'm going to move forward onto is Sculpt and Define. There is color correctors, but for this image, I don't feel that I need to really correct any coloring on her skin. Everything looks quite well. So I just want to move on to defining and sculpting her facial features, because, you know, cheekbones, things like that can get, again, lost in the photo by the lights, highlights, things like that, and get blown out and get lost. And we just want to bring those back. So you'll see here that there is several actions under the Sculpt and Define. We have a skin glow, which is what I use for the highlight. And then we have 3 different contours. I have one designed specifically for light skin tones. We have one for deeper skin tones, and we have universal, which is good for either or. That's really for like a really quick retouch. It even includes one highlight shade, a contour shade, and also just like a soft pinkish blush, kind of like on the go. If you don't have a whole lot of time to spend, or it's just a really simple edit for you to be really your way to go. And that's what we're going to use today, is the universal sculpt face on here, so I can show you how to use that. So I'm going to go ahead and press play on the Sculpt My Face in Universal. And you'll have a pop-up that kind of talks about that as well, and to paint on the black layer masks and how to do that. Now, our first shade here is a pinkish tone that is going to be used towards your blush. You have your highlight shade, that's the more creamier white tone, and then the contour, which is more of a cocoa chocolate color. So I'm going to start with the contour. I usually start with contour first and work my way up with blending in. So I'm going to zoom in on the image. And the main areas that I just really kind of want to define is just right in the cheek area, right underneath the cheekbone, a little bit on the bridge of the nose, and just right up here into the temple area. That's all this image right here really needs. And it is set at 30%. Again, you can change the opacities as you need for your subject and what works best. So I'm going to first start with underneath where I know the cheekbone should be, right below here. Now, I know at first it looks like that is really dark, but we're going to blend. And I'm going to make my brush just a little bit smaller. And I'm going to go down the bridge of her nose right there. And what I want to do here is I'm going to switch over to my black paint here so I can erase back, because I really just want more of a soft line. And what this does is it really just defines the nose area, and also can make your subject's nose more defined, slimmer as well. And then I'm going to apply a little bit right up here in the temple area. Now, right now, it looks really dark and kind of silly. Don't look screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial back this to about 15%. Let me zoom out so you can kind of see the changes we're making here. So if I turn this off, you can see that there's no contouring of the face. I'm going to turn it back on. You can see where we started bringing in some more of those details. You can kind of see more of a cheekbone now, just like dodging and burning would do. That's exactly what we're doing here, just applying this in a different manner. So I'm going to erase back. I'm going to take my brush opacity, and I'm going to put it at 30%. And I want the color black because I'm going to erase back a little bit and make this a little bit more blended in. I'm just going to click here and there just to kind of fade in those colors, and also on the bridge of the nose. I'm going to turn it off and back on so you can see. It's off and it's back on. And again, it has just defined the areas of the facial structure. So you brought that back to her. So the next thing to do would be to highlight. Highlighting areas is, you know, you want to stick under, like I highlight on the tip of the cheekbones, the bridge of the nose, and a little bit on the forehead, on the chin, and on the cupid's bow on the mouth. And we're going to do that now. I'm going to put my brush opacity back up to 100. And let me zoom back up here so I can see. And make sure it is white to paint on, not black. Sometimes you can get confused with the back and forth. And this is just really light and subtle, so it's not too over crazy. Now I went on top of the cheekbone here, and I'm also going to apply just a little bit right here underneath where we put that contour, because that will make that contour stick out even more. You lighten it in there. A little bit on the chin, and then right here on the cupid's bow as well. And let me zoom out and kind of see what we've done so far. You see our highlight now, and I am going to dial that back to 25%. Turn these off and back on. My contour, I think I'm going to go back to 10%. It's a little bit lighter. Yeah, much better. And then your blush. Now, we do have blush palettes, so you can pick from those as well. This is just the Universal Sculpt and Divine, just really quickly to get you through an image. I know the blush tone is really good for any skin tone, just like a nice rosy cheek. So where I put my blush is just right at the apples of the cheeks is where I like to apply. And I don't want to keep it this crazy tone too much, so I'm going to go down to about 40%. Let me zoom out. I'm going to paint just a little bit more on. A bit more color, and then I want to make my brush a little bit bigger. My opacity of my brush I want to bring down to 40%, because I'm going to blend in that blush right here. Dial back in that area, not so much right underneath the eye, because again I just wanted it right there on the cheekbone. And there is the nice color. You can make it darker if you'd like. It's whatever you would like to do. So that is using the really quick Universal Contour and Highlight set, just to add some definition and color to your subject. So I'm finished with that. I'm going to flatten that. Next thing I'm going to do is, I know that I already added highlight with that Universal set, but I also want to add a little bit more highlight using the Highlight Skin Glow. This adds a little bit more shinier highlights and really can add a really pretty pop of light. So I want to use that on top of what we already applied, because when you apply your blush, sometimes that can cover up some of your highlight. And put my brush back at 100. I'm going to go just at the top of her cheekbone again. You can see how it just lights up. Of course, we're going to dial back on that because we don't want it too powerful. And let's see, it looks like a 50. That's much better. Zoom out. And I think I will also apply this to the bridge of her nose. And a little bit on her cupid's bow. I'm not going to do her cheek too much, or her chin. And just right up here in her forehead, as so. And turn that off and on, and you can see where it has lightened up. I am going to dial back to about 40%, and that right here on her cheekbone is really blended in nicely. And again, every subject, every skin tone you have is going to be different. The way you have your lighting, whether it's outside portraiture, inside, it's going to make a difference. So each subject might have to be applied differently. And you know, the strength of the action as well. Just dial it back if you have to. So the next thing we're going to work on is the eyes. And that is under the Wink and Wow. Let me zoom up to the eyes. And basically I want to, her eyes are pretty clean here, but we're going to clean them up just a little bit more. I'm going to run the Beautiful Eyes. This is an all-in-one eye action, and it'll brighten the eyes, bring more color into the eyes, and here's a pop-up that will actually tell you everything that's in there. Brighten the whites, brighten the iris, and give some color to the iris, and also reduce redness if there's any redness in the eyes, which you can see in this image here. There is some red in some certain areas. Not much, but it's there. And this will fix all of that. So I'm going to zoom up really good. Make my brush smaller. We have the sharpen eyes. This will obviously sharpen the eyes. Now I will tell you, be very careful sharpening the eyes. If it, you don't want to be too much and eyes stick way out compared to the rest of your clear of the rest of your image, so don't overdo it. But this is pretty soft, so just watch your image. We've got brighten the whites, reduce redness. I would like to do that first. And that works for me. And brighten the whites. You don't need them really whitened too much, so I'm going to dial back on this once I get done painting on the whites, because I don't want her to look like a crazy-eyed woman. So I'm going to put 20%. That would be more efficient. Brighten the iris. That would be in here. The color of the eye. I'm going to dial back on that to about 20%. Because her eyes were pretty crisp and clear to begin with, so it didn't need too much. And also add a little bit of color to the iris area. And I'm going to dial back on that as well to about 50%. And let me zoom out and turn the eye stuff off and turn them all on, and you can see the difference before and after. It really made the irises pop. Brighten the whites. I am going to dial back again to 10%. It's a little too white for her because, again, they were already kind of white. So I'm going to flatten this because I'm done with that. And we're going to go to the Lights Cameras Lashes. Now this is mascara. This was designed to specifically only target eyelashes, because eyelashes are dark. So I've noticed sometimes with other actions out there, they say mascara, I mean like they've done something and just multiplied it, therefore it makes the whole eye look smoky, and it's like I just wanted to apply mascara. So that is exactly what this was designed to do, not touch anything else on the eye. It's specifically just going to focus on the eyelashes, which are, it's going to pull from the dark colors on the lashes. So make sure your brush is white before we play this and run it. So just press play, and it's going to tell you, as well as all the actions, make sure you paint on the black layer mask with white or it won't apply it. So all you have to do is just take your white soft round brush and go over the lashes. I'm going to turn it off and back on, and you'll see. And then it wasn't really crazy over, making them way black or way crazy, but you can see the difference, and it intensifies them. If you open up the group layer, there is a highlighted box right here. It's yellow. You can add more, and it will make them even darker. If you need them darker, you can run this action again on your subject. But you turn it off and turn it back on. You can see how it made them darker without affecting any other part of the eye. So that's one amazing thing. So the next thing, we're going to go work on the brow bar. We're going to shape up her brows a little bit, define them. We're going to click on the brow bar. It's under the Wink and Wow as well, and just press play. The brow bar is pretty awesome, and again, comes with every shade to match eyebrow colors. And sorry for all the background noise. I'm going to turn off my phone. with her color, with the recipe guide, we have it written down as using ebony. So what we're gonna do first is just paint. I do the brow highlight last, so come down here to the where it says brow tints on the black layer mask, and make sure again that it's white. And what we're gonna do is just paint over the eyebrows to define them. And this does not have any color on it yet. This is defining them. This kind of helps you see where it needs to go. So what you could do with your subject is, just run through every color. Well, okay, if I click on soft brown, that obviously isn't a good color for her. I mean, that's silly. So again, this is just playing with colors, what works best. And I have left these tints at normal opacity. I use them once I find the shade that's going to work best. I switch it to multiply to blend in more and to just blend better with the fibers of the hair. So, find the color that works best for your subject. She does have darker eyebrows, so let me see the rest of her hair color. See, that one was ebony, and then there's granite. We're going to go with ebony, and of course it's still too powerful. But it is at multiply, but that's because that's the way I want it to blend. And I'm going to dial back on the opacity. Let's try 20%. And then what I'm going to do is click the black layer mask, and I am going to erase back to blend this even a little bit better. Change your brush opacity about down to, when I have to erase something, I like to go to at least 30%, and then if I need more, erase more off, I can just build it up. I mean, that way I don't take off too much and go back and forth. So this just kind of lets me blend without it being too over the top. And turn it off and back on. Let me zoom out further so you get a better view. And that's off and on. And you can see how it just defined her eyebrows. Very simple, very easy. Now the brow highlight helps contour the eyebrow, just like we use the Sculpt and Define to sculpt, the facial features. This is really good to really sculpt that eyebrow and to make it look very nice and clean. So make sure your white brush is selected, because we're going to go now on this black layer mask, and we are going to go in and contour a little bit. And where I apply this is right at the brow arch. Well, I do, but let me put my brush back up at 100%. That might help. So let me see. Right at 100. I play it right under the eyebrow arch, all the way down, and also right here on the edge. Now, I know it looks silly right now, but we're going to fix it. And over here, we don't have to do it too much, because the way her face is turned, so we don't have to focus too much on that. I'm going to go ahead and switch to a black paint here, because we are going to go erase some of that and really make it look clean and nice. And blend it in. And I'm going to take the whole opacity of this adjustment layer down to 40%. And let's see, let me go back over here and blend some of that out a little bit thinner. All right, let me zoom out of here so you can see what kind of mess I did. All right, just lets me know where I need to blend a little bit more, take a little bit off, so it's not so noticeable, like looks like we just painted a crown on there. So I'm going to turn this off and back on. You can see how it lightened up the outside, and it contoured that brow a little bit better and lightened up. So that is the brow bar. It's very simple to use. I'm going to flatten that. So the next thing we are going to do is work on the eyeshadow, and we're going to use the Peanut Butter and Jelly palette. So under the shadow palette, you will find the PB&J palette, so just select it and then press play. Once it's done, finish playing, it will show you, again, tell you to paint on the black layer mask with the white round brush. And we are got white selected as our brush, and I'll make my brush just a little bit bigger. And I'm going to start this out with bananas, and this is basic. It's a soft creamy, and I'm going to use it just up in the lid area slightly, and then just a little bit on the lower lash. I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to switch to a black color paint, and just kind of erase back so it's a nice clean application. And I also want to apply it in this eye as well, and go back and clean up that line as well. I'm also going to dial back on my brush so I can erase back, because since this side of her face is darker due to the angle, we don't want too much color applied or it's going to look completely wonky compared to the eye over here. So now we've applied the shade Bananas, and the next color I'm going to do is Extra Creamy, and I'm going to do that just right here. I'll move my brush back 100%. I always forget to do that sometimes. Just apply it all the way up to the brow bone. It's kind of a metallic-y, just creamy, soft nude shade. It really helps the blending the colors. And apply it a little bit over here. And again, since that side of her face is darker, we are going to lower our brush and erase back so it's not so powerful. Okay, and put my brush back up at 100%. The next color we will work on is Peanut Brittle, and this color is going to go on the lid only for this particular look. Again, you can play with these colors and apply them how you want to. You can mix and match from different palettes. It's completely up to you. And I want this vibrant color just on the lid area. We're going to go in and erase back. So again, it looks nice and blended. And we are going to apply it on the other eye as well. And we're going to go back and delete, lower my brush. If your subject isn't angled like this, I mean, it's much easier to apply if you've got the same lighting for both sides of the face. An image like this can take a little bit more work, but not too much. So I'll put my brush back up at 100. And the next shade we're going to work on, Jelly. This is going to give us that purple shade under the eye, like the lower lash line. And by itself won't be enough, so I will show you how I apply this. First, apply it under the lash line. Then we're going to clean it up. So we go back to our black shade here and just kind of pull back on it. And we also need to apply it on the other eye. And we're going to go back and just clean that up. And I am going to right click on that layer, Jelly, duplicate it. And just so you've got more of a powerful purple shade that I was really wanting to go for. So if you play it just the one layer by itself, it's not too powerful, but we duplicated that layer and now we got more of a deeper rustic purple hue. And on this layer mask here, I do want to go back over here and erase back on that other eye because it is too much. So I'm just going to go over it lightly. And then let me put my brush back up to 100, white. And now I'm going to, we're going to use just the peanut butter shade. And where I want this is just like right above where we had put our color on the lid. Just kind of give it a transition shade to blend in from the lid up into the brow. So I'm going to start from the outer corner and just go in. And of course it went over my other colors, and I want to get that off there. Just kind of blend it in. And I'll turn that off back on. So you kind of see just kind of transitioned in, so it looked very nice. The next shade I'm going to click on is the Peanut Butter Cup, and this is going to go only in the outer corner. It just deepens, gives it some smoky-ish edge, so just like that. I won't be applying that effect over to this eye as well, obviously, because we don't get that angle to work on, so we will dial out. And you can see the look of it, and if it's too much, of course you can always group these layers, and how to do that is click on your top layer, hold down your shift key. This is with the Windows, I think it's Control if you have Mac, and then press Control G to make a group, and that will group all your layers. That's only available in full versions of Photoshop. I don't know how PSC would do that. This is just to lower all the opacities of all the colors all at once. So you put them all in a group, and you can blend them down if it's too much. So I put it at 80, so it just makes it a little bit softer, not so much out there. So the last thing I want to do is I'm just going to flatten this out. I'm just going to go work on our blush, give her a little more color. We did put some tone on it earlier with our Universal Sculpt, but we're going to have a little bit more color. So we're going to go down to our blush palettes, and we're going to use the Blushing Love Cheek Palette and press play. And the little pop-up box will tell you to use a white brush and always paint on the black layer mask. Here's our shades. Again, do not paint on these, just paint right here, and we'll turn on these shades to see what color we want. One is already turned on, so you can see where you're applying the color, and you can change the color where you want it. So I'm going to apply just a little bit more color to the top of your cheekbone, and erase back just a little bit. And we're going to use the color Laugh, just because it's very subtle. It's not overbearing, and it's just a really soft color, just to bring some color, but not, I don't want to take away from the dramatic eye that we've created. So I just want a soft color. So that's what we're going to do with that. I'm going to turn it off and back on and see where it applied, and it's exactly where I wanted it to be. So I am done applying the blush. I am now going to, under our same blush palettes, go to Luminous Color Cheek Palette. This also produces color, but it also gives a nice painted highlight with it as well. So you get a color, but also luminosity, just really beautiful color. So that's what we're going to use here. And you just press play, and it will do the same thing as it does with the other palettes. Make sure the black layer mask is selected. You have a white brush and a soft brush at that. And I'm going to apply this color right on top of where we just was, but just a little bit higher on the cheekbone where the highlight would naturally be. And just 2 clicks, just like that. And I am going to choose the color. I'm going to undo Camellia and do Star, just because it gives it more of a light. You can turn on each color and get a different tone. And it's going to vary on the light of your subject, the skin tone, but they all work very well for any skin tone or subject that you're working on. So we're just going to stick with Star just because it's a very nice light color, and it's not too much, but I am going to dial back on the opacity to about 70%. And turn it off and back on, and you can kind of see, I'm going to go down to 50. I went too wild. And then I will flatten that, and then we're going to work on our last part, which is add just a little bit of lip color to her lips. And I'm going to, for this particular one, we're going to work with the La Creme palette, and I'll tell you, as well as all the actions do, the pop-ups, you know, to remind you, make sure your brush is white. Within our actions, I make sure to always build it in there to where it should automatically select those for you. But in case they don't, or you've made a switcheroo or on something, just make sure it's white before you start painting on. And I'm going to zoom up on the lips. And make my brush a little bit smaller here. And if you open up the group, you will see it's already got a color selected for you, just for you to get started and kind of know where to apply your color and paint it on correctly and all that fun stuff. Go back. I'm going to erase back. I select the color black so I can erase back over the mask to align it better. And then I'm not putting the red on her. The color we're going to go with is Topless, which is a apricot nude shade. It's not overpowering. It's just kind of, again, it just like the blush I chose earlier, I dimmed them down because her eyes were so powerful. So I just chose a nude shade, and it just blended in nicely. And we'll zoom out so you can kind of see. It's not much different. Her lip was kind of nude already, but you can see it's, you know, it's not too over the top. But I'm gonna take the opacity down a little bit to about 70%. So it kind of blends in with that soft, natural pink lip that she already had. So that is the first edit, and I will see you on the next one.
Beautiful.